oh, is everything actually a lie? But then how would Sam know about RoboCop? The important thing is Sam knowing RoboCop. Everything hinges on Sam knowing RoboCop.
Podcasts, the 21st Century Radio Show. Two friends were hit by quarantine and found themselves bored in 2020. But they committed the one taboo among content creators. Never start a podcast because you're bored. Will they go mad? Give up? Or finish watching each other's favourite shows? Whatever happens, listen with care. For what could equal the horror of spoilers?
Welcome to the Sin and Violence Podcast. I'm Kara.
And I'm Ginger.
And in this show, we will be discussing and doing somewhat daily recaps of the series Life on Mars and the anime FULLMETAL ALCHEMIST Brotherhood.
Well, that was a finale, and I'm confused, and I'm so many emotions, and I don't know what I'm feeling, and also I've been doing nothing but listen to Life on Mars by David Bowie all day. Nothing. Literally nothing else. But it has been in my ears.
Congratulations, you're having the Life on Mars fan experience.
The Life on Mars experience.
This is literally how it goes. Because
I have a theory, and maybe you can disprove this right now, but I was like, if I listen to the song Life on Mars, would that give me any clues? And the answer is no. And then I went, why is it called Life on Mars? Did they do what I do for art pieces, and you just call it something because the song title is there and it sounds good?
The reason it's called Life on Mars... The reason it's called Life on Mars is because it was a big song in that year, and because it was meant to evoke just how out of place Sam felt. It's like right there...
Sure, I mean, I get that. When I make art pieces, I will name them after things that somehow abstractly relate to it, but if someone was to do a deep dive into the song title, they really wouldn't get any insight as to what I'm thinking about.
Well, considering it was almost called Ford Granada...
Okay, all right. So yes, what I said is true.
I mean, I will come back to the song because Nelson actually does quote the song in this episode very nicely, but that's just a low-level thing. But, like, okay, so we will start off in reverse with the violence, as is custom. Mm-hmm. And we are doing Life on Mars, Season 2, Episode 8, The End But Also Not. The end of this particular piece of the story. We begin with Sam waking up in his apartment. I just want to put this note out there that actually was Jimmy Savile as Jimmy Savile. Now, granted, when the show came out, the whole, thing about how horrible he was had not come out yet. But it is a dude playing his past self on the radio, announcing that Sam has a tumor, and it's gonna be operated on by the surgeon, Mr. Morgan. Now, for those who are playing the home game, last episode, Frank Morgan is the name of the acting DCI who came in while Gene was suspected of murder. And also seems to have some connection to Sam getting home. So Sam's like, oh, Frank Morgan is my Coma 70s world version of the brilliant surgeon who's going to work on me. After this news, Sam gets a call from Frank Morgan saying that Sam's job is to excise Gene, to cut Gene out of the department. And Sam's like, oh, I get it. Gene is my tumor. And so this is the operation. And then I will go home. And this is his decision now.
I'm going to take you on every so often, I'm going to interject with Ginger's journey through the Life on Mars finale for the first time. And when I first was hearing all this, I was like, no, this better not be it. Carry on.
Remember, just because a character says something doesn't mean it's true. So, the case of the week... Police informant Danny Croucher has been murdered. This was a dude who was sort of on the sly giving information to the cops. Gene wants to get the murderer. Sam is very upset because Croucher was not offered enough safety for helping out. Frank mentions rooting Gene out for negligence, so Sam mentions the Danny Croucher thing. And Frank's like, okay, this is great. We're going to finish this operation, and you can go home. So Sam, hearing finish operation, go home, is like, friendship with Gene Hunt ended, Frank Morgan is new best friend. And he does a full heel turn, just like it's been 2 seasons of getting good and then just full heel turn when Frank says home. Would you like to go home? So a man is brought in for interrogation. Don Sykes. It is rough. It is awful. Sam records the whole thing. It does, however, work. The man gives the name Leslie Johns in connection to the murder. He is known. He is apparently a cop killer. Later that day, Annie visits Sam at his apartment, and he tells her, hey, I'm going away, and she doesn't get it. They have an awkward, sad moment, and she's like, no, please stay. And she says, please stay forever, and he's like, well, stay for one night, no questions asked, let's just do it, basically. And she's like, no.
Ginger's interjection again on this journey. I wanted these two to get together, but had this been the moment, I would have been so angry and disowned everything I'd said before.
It's a great moment because Sam says, I can't stay forever, and Annie says, I can't stay for one night, which I thought was a beautiful thing. So she walks out. Next day, Jean is planning an undercover operation posing as Don Sykes because Leslie Johns has never seen this man. So they're going to help Johns' gang on a train robbery that's being planned where wages are being transported. And then once there's a bunch of money in their hands, Jean's going to catch them red-handed. And Sam is kind of, he's recording the whole thing under a porno magazine. Jean is like, I will move heaven and earth to get this man. And Sam is kind of on the fence at this point. He's like, okay, I don't like what he's doing, but he's also doing it for the right reasons. I don't know how to feel. Sam meets Frank in a cemetery. This is probably the time to mention that our theme for the episode is
Old Men Fib in Graveyards.
Yeah, Old Men Fib in Graveyards. So, Sam meets Frank Morgan in a graveyard, and he's delivering his intel. It's like papers and files and tapes, and he's like, cool, now let me go home. And Frank's like, I'm sorry, what? And Sam's like, because you're a future surgeon and I'm a future boy, and you're
from the future.
From the future, and you're gonna take out the Gene Hunt tumor in my brain, and I'm gonna wake up in 2006. And Frank is like, uh-oh, Sam, ha, whoops. Actually, your name is Sam Williams, you have amnesia, and you're part of an operation called MARS, the Metropolitan Accountability and Reconciliation Strategy. And Sam is like, no, that is not the case. Frank takes him out into the graveyard and shows him the headstones that were allegedly used to formulate his backstory and his life story. He's like, yeah, this happened to you. You've had brain damage ever since you were 12 years old in a coach accident. And Sam rushes back to CID. He goes into Gene's office, and he looks for his own file, and his referral papers to Manchester were signed by Morgan out of Hyde.
Ginger's interjection corner again. At this point in the watch, I am distraught and confused and angry and very confused about everything going on and trying to come to terms with this new reality, should it be real. And the best note I have about this was questioning everything, and I wrote, Sam's parents are dead? Is Sam in the body of somebody else? Is this an isekai show? And then I'm like, is everything actually a lie? But then how would Sam know about RoboCop? The important thing is Sam knowing RoboCop. Everything hinges on Sam knowing RoboCop.
Because just 2 scenes prior, Sam had quoted RoboCop. So Morgan is like, golly, I'm sorry, Sam. I'm sorry you had to find out about your shitty situation this way. But, you'll go home to a family that loves you for your brain-damaged self, so that's okay, right? Here, and gives him a shiny new police radio and says, hey, when everything goes to absolute shit like it will, call us, and we will come in and stop everything, and we'll get Gene out of here. And there's this moment where Sam's like, oh my god, so these are all real people. Like, for real people. And Morgan's like, meh. He'll be pensioned off. And it doesn't matter, whatever. Sam then goes to the pub, as I would in his situation. And he goes to Nelson, and he's like, Nelson! What the hell do I do? You can apparently see into my brain. And Nelson just he's like, hey, I have seen a lot of people, and he says, walking around in a sunken dream, which is a reference to the lyrics to Life on Mars.
Now that you say that, I can hear David Bowie's voice in my head singing it.
It was a nice little, just subtle little dip through the line. I liked it very much. And he says, Nelson talks about when you can feel you're awake, when you can't feel you're not. That's the advice he gives. So, in typical Nelson fashion. Sam returns to CID, and he confesses to Annie and Ray and Chris that he's basically a double agent from Hyde, and his whole job is to dismantle the department and, as Frank Morgan put it, build it up again in his image, in Frank's image. And Annie slaps him, Ray is pissed off, and Chris is just hurt because...
Kohai is hurt.
Kohai is hurt because Senpai is a traitor, and he doesn't know what to do with this.
So I even watched this with you, and I know what you're talking about. When you were saying Sam confesses, my brain automatically filled in the phrase that he's a future boy from the future. I've ruined this show with that phrase. I'm sorry. I love. Technically, I'm the guy. I'm the dude. I'm the man. I'm the fella who came up with it. So we're both ruining it. So, regardless of how terrible things are for the department right now, the team goes ahead with the plan. This involves Jean being part of the gang doing the robbery, and everyone else being security guards and train staff. So that is all the lads. It is Sam and Ray and Chris and Annie. And then Jean, and they all have really adorable uniforms.
Everything is going fine, like the armed robbers come up, and one of them is Jean, and you can tell that even though he is taking this very seriously, he's also having the time of his life. Because now he gets to play bad guy, and he's kind of like, yeah. Everything is going fine until Sam's radio to Frank Morgan starts going off. Like, you can start hearing radio sounds. Leslie Johns goes, oh shit, these are all undercover cops. Jean breaks cover, jumps up to defend the team. It is still not enough. The radio is not working to call in backup, and they're like, why the hell are you calling in backup from Hyde, you piece of shit traitor? Everyone starts getting shot. Annie's calling for help. Chris is like, I don't want to be a policeman anymore, which that makes me really sad. He sounded so legitimately terrified. I was like, oh my god, Chris. So Sam is like, fine, I am going to run for help. So he goes running into this train tunnel, and at the very end of it is Frank Morgan just standing there like, good job, Sam, you did it. You beat the game, and now you can go home.
And there's like white light and everything, like...
And he wakes up in a hospital bed, and there is Frank Morgan going, I'm Dr. Morgan. I am the man who did your surgery. Your tumor was inoperable, but ultimately benign, and so we just relieve some of the pressure, and you're good to go. And he shows up in a full suit because, as anyone who has had surgery knows, your surgeon shows up dressed for a nice day out when he's done with your surgery.
Sorry, I'm thinking back to when I had surgery. And I'm like, I don't think anybody in the hospital wore normal clothes. I'll come back to this because I don't want to break but I do have a surgery story. Yeah.
So Morgan walks out, and I'm just going to say, Ginger noticed this before I said it. He looks back at Sam, and he's got a dead-ass sinister look on his face.
Yes, just maybe.
Just maybe. So... modern life. We get a cover of Over the Rainbow. Sam goes and sees his mom, and she is very supportive. He's like, I made a promise to someone, and she's like, well, I know you. I know you're a good guy, and I know that they can count on you. He records his entire story, basically everything we have seen, on tape for a colleague of his, who is also in the force, who is a psychologist, who is... doing a study of people who have had psychological issues in the police force. So... he packs those up to send off to her, and then he is in a meeting, and he's just sort of zoning out, and he is called on to speak up, and he looks down his hand, and he is basically sliced into his thumb, and it's bleeding, and he's like, oh, I did not feel that. And he remembers what Nelson said. He goes up to the roof, and Life on Mars starts playing again, and with all due respect to the complicated emotions of the moment... because it is a very complicated moment emotionally.
Yep.
He yeets himself off the police building. Look, putting it that way is the only way I can cope with it.
I'm sorry, guys, but we have to say the word yeet, okay?
And then it fades to black, and I'm just going to pause one moment to say that if John Sim had his way, that would have been the end of the show.
I have some words for John Sim, apparently.
I love you, John Sim. I love you very much, and I think you are a lovely man and a talented actor, but you're wrong. Anyway, so... Once, the end of Life on Mars plays, fade to black, we then have Sam sort of stepping back out of the shadows into the light, and he just pops his gun out, and we are right back where we were when he left, with everyone still yelling for help, and he shoots Leslie Johns, he saves everybody. Gene is pissed off because he got shot, but he'll be okay, probably. He's a big boy, he'll be fine. After the operation is completed, we see everyone back at the pub. Nelson's like, it's good to see you again. He and Chris have a resolution, and Ray is like, walks up in a sling, and he's like, yo, I hate you, but also I met this hot nurse, so I guess we're fine. And, Ray's happy, Chris is happy, and then Phyllis just kind of leans in like, go get her, Sam, go find her. And it's like, yeah, Phyllis, you know. And she like nods out the door, and he goes to Annie, and they run into each other, and they just have this little moment. And she's like, you came back for us. And again, we have a mirror of the first episode where he says, tell me what I should do. And she says, stay. But now she says, stay here forever. And he's like, all right. And then they kiss.
Finally. It finally happened.
Literally the last 2 minutes of the show. They
maybe 60 seconds, 90 seconds.
They kiss, and it's great. And then Gene rolls up because even though he's rolling in on this, he at least has the sense to wait a second. Mm-hmm. And everyone piles into the car to go off to the next case. The radio starts playing like, we're losing him. And Sam's like, yeah, shut up, and changes the channel. They all go driving off, bickering with each other. And the show ends with the test car girl running up and turning off our TV. And that, for now, is where we stand.
That, my friend, is Life on Mars. Okay, so...
Yeah.
I have so many things. I think it's fair to say I want to let everyone know that before the finale started, before we started it, I was like, I am sad and nervous, and I get that way about finales that I give a crap about, where, you're sad and you're nervous, because you don't know what's going to happen. And I can't remember the last time I felt that way. It's been a couple years. So I'm glad to say that I have formed a very strong emotional attachment to this show.
When you said that to me, I was actually, so happy. Not
I know. I know.
But sort of like, oh my god, she cares. And I will say, again, I have seen this show 84,000 times. I pretty much know what's going to happen every minute. But as we were coming to the end, I'm like, okay, bye, Sam, till next rewatch.
Yeah, so I think one thing is, so once we kind of got through all of that, and I'm sitting there going, well, what happened? You know what I mean? I'm sitting there okay, what is real? Because I think the biggest things that were telling me that when Sam, quote-unquote, woke up in his current day, it was just really weird stuff, so Frank is there, but he's not in, scrubs or whatever, he's in a weird suit. Not only that, the biggest thing is that Sam didn't have a head scar. He didn't, you know what I mean? He looked normal. He just woke up. And if you had a brain tumor, you should have a face scar, a head scar from your hair. You know what I mean? Because that's where you have to go in to operate. Mm-hmm. And then I was waiting, okay, maybe because then his hair was also the same, so I thought, okay, well, maybe they'll show it when he's out walking around. Nope, he looks totally normal. So that was my other thing that I was like, oh, I'm not sure this is real. And then, of course, when he's in that meeting and he cuts his thumb, and when we say cut his thumb, it is digging the blade into the thumb, not even I cut myself on my Swiss Army knife all the time and don't notice it. But,
yeah, this was actually he's that out of it.
Exactly. So, I will keep saying that my theory is still not disproven. My theory that Sam is actually in purgatory is actually still valid. Because, and if anything, it got more reinforced just because of how, when Sam gets off the train and he's running and he's in the tunnel, like it's a tunnel, and there's a tunnel, there's light at the end of the tunnel, and it's Frank, and he steps into a white void, and it would be interesting if, actually this whole time, dead was Sam. Sam was dead the whole time.
Dead was Sam.
2006 was him being dead, and that was his afterlife, his heaven, but then for some reason he gets knocked into purgatory. And I will also say that at one point, I think it was in the beginning of the episode, when Sam's in his apartment, I actually said to you, like, hey, that medallion is on prominent display I see here in this scene. So, maybe it'll take ashes to ashes to disprove my theory, but my theory is still very strong.
So, there's, my thing has been, like, there are so many things that, again, I notice on a rewatch, and the struggle has been finding ways to address them without inadvertently sticking my foot in a spoiler. And because I do want to discuss things that are there in the writing and the acting,
right,
that even when I was watching it fresh, even when there was literally no such thing as ashes to ashes, that were there waiting for you, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Morgan is such an interesting character to me. Whoever you think he is, whatever you think he is, I notice more than ever. And maybe it's because I've seen more of life. Maybe it's because I've met more people. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But he is just hammering Sam from every potential direction.
Mm.
He's like, hey, Sam, you got a tumor. Hey, Sam, you got this. Hey, Sam, actually, this is all a lie. Hey, Sam, actually, it's all true. And it's like bam, 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 bam. Every 5 seconds, it's a different story until Sam is flipping his shit. But the one constant is, if you listen to me, you will get what you want.
Yeah.
And that is actually, I will say, unfortunately, it's a very effective psychological trick. When you basically run someone into the ground to the point that they have no idea what's going on, and then say, and the funny thing is, Jean did that, but not nearly like that.
All right, hang on. New theory then. Here, thank you for pointing this out, because now Frank ties into my whole heaven, hell, purgatory theory. Frank is a temptation of the devil, saying, if you listen to me, I'll give you everything you want, and it's actually hell when Sam wakes up in 2006 modern future world. Ah ha ha! My theory is strengthened!
It's evolving, friend! So...
I'm so proud of myself. I just can't tell you.
Is that why the back of his vest is red?
I do like his vest. He's a really great vest.
It is fantastic. Like his...
But isn't that one of the things, is that Lucifer's a snappy dresser? Come on, wake up, sheeple.
But I will say that from a writing standpoint, that could be true of a present-day story with no twists in it. That could be true of a lot of things, is that he's using a very real and very effective psychological tactic.
Yeah, for sure.
And like I said, Gene did this shockingly lower level. We thought it was pretty high level when Gene did it, but he did that thing with that kid, where he was like, cut off every exit and then offer them the one chink of light.
Mm-hmm.
That's literally what Morgan did to Sam, is what Gene did to the kid.
Mm.
And
yeah.
I never thought about that until literally this moment. And it's like, I
mean, I guarantee you that if I look for it, somebody has done, like, the psychological, the imagery of life on Mars and blah, 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 blah. But this is one of those things where I'm not going to go looking for it because I don't want anything ruined for me right now.
Well, you know what? Once you're done, if no one else has done it to the degree you're looking for, screw it. I'll do it and FULLMETAL ALCHEMIST. I've seen this enough to go there, but yeah, no, it's, I still get feelings having seen this many times. I think it's really cool. It's like, I know exactly what's going on. I know exactly where it's going. I know exactly what's going to happen, but I still get the little shivers.
Mm.
I still get when... God bless Sam and Annie. When she goes to his apartment and puts his hand on her chest And it's not on her boobie. He's trying to feel her heartbeat. He's trying to find a point of reference for, okay, I've been told this place is and isn't real within 5 seconds of each other. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to find some grounding thing. And he just puts his hand over her heart. And once you take away the weird, it's kind of like he's finally actually going for a, okay, look, I am going to at least verify for myself if you are real. Mm. And then Annie goes and does it to him too, which makes it kind of cute.
Yeah, and actually, if honest, what I think is like funny about Annie is that in all these instances where these things happen, and she's putting these, she always like turns it around or like gives it back equal. So I'm thinking about, for instance, when she joined the force and Ray pinched her ass and she pinched his ass, and you're like, okay, fine.
Yeah.
And then it's like this now because we were joking about it, like, you know, she puts, you know, he's doing the weird hand on the chest thing, and then she does it to him, and she goes, your heart's racing, and you went, like, yeah, his hand is on your titty.
Which to be fair, I have to credit that to another friend of mine during another rewatch.
But it was still funny.
It was when I was rewatching it with our friends Emily and CJ, actually.
Okay.
And I think it was CJ.
She does that, and then like always turns it around. And so what I love about this, though, I have found because we've all seen so many things, is I found Annie to be very refreshing. Yes. In the role of the romantic interest, because I mean she's obviously more than that, but one of the little bullet points under Annie's character is the romantic interest to Sam, right? But unlike if you're used to other romantic interests, she subverts your expectations. The two of them that I can think of immediately off the top of my head in this episode happen in the same scene. One is she's not freaked out by Sam putting his hand on her heart, but then she also rejects his advances of being like, just spend the night with me, Annie, just with one night, no questions. And I was like, don't you dare do it, Annie, or don't you do it, Annie. I'm gonna be so pissed off at this stupid show. If she does it, it's stupid, and then she doesn't do it, so it's not stupid, and I was very proud of her.
Yep.
Because, I mean, like, the thing that got me about that was just that had she done it, it would have felt like the most unrewarding resolve to the build-up, you know? And you're just like, ugh. But she did it, so it was rewarding in the end.
It was very rewarding, and it was nice to see, you know, she's someone who starts out as, in the very first episode, who is she? She's, oh, you were just in a car accident, go see that WPC, I think she has some medical training. Mm-hmm. And that's literally all she's there for, is to, like, beat Sam up a little bit to get his headache to go away. And she's treated like that. It's like, oh, WPC's no medicine, sort of, I think. And then she's gone. I think she's always been this way, but I think it's come more to the forefront that she's basically like, no, you don't get to treat me this way. I have a say in this, and, you know, I'm not going to stay for one night. I can't. Mm-hmm. You know, she says, I cannot. And it's like, yeah, you can't, because that's a terrible thing to ask of someone after saying, I'm going to go away and I don't belong here.
Yeah,
and then let's just have one last go before that, though.
Right, and it doesn't help that this time is, like, Sam was kind of being normal functioning the last few episodes, and all of a sudden he's back to being his weird, I'm a future boy from the future act. Mm-hmm. Which, like, really, because I might even have to rewatch this episode right now, if just because I was the nervous and anxiety, and then I was thrown off from him behaving that way, and then I was thrown off for, like, what, 15-20 minutes because Frank is being all, like, no,
Frank
Sam,
is being all
you're
Frank
undercover Morgan. Agent, woo! And so that really threw me off, and I'm furiously trying to retcon things in my brain while also questioning everything. So, I'm like, I need to rewatch this episode just to right away kind of like purge it from my brain of how I was feeling, because, you know, like just to rewatch it that way I think would be a lot better. But I think it's just like I'm finding it interesting that I'm left with this conclusion where I go, I still don't know what is the real world and what's not.
Well, fortunately, there is more to come. I have during that last episode, I took down so many notes and so many things that I've that during the last episode of the podcast, I have all these things to say to you. I'm gonna forget that I wrote these, And I'm going to come back to this file like, okay, apparently Pascara says to say...
But I will say the one thing, and maybe this will change, again, everything maybe will change dramatically with Ashes to Ashes, but the one thing is, I'm thinking back on the F4 part of the series, and I'm like, I still don't know what is totally different knowing what I know now, which means I'm betting this will change once I watch Ashes to Ashes, or at least some of Ashes to Ashes, and be like, okay, maybe now things then will change on Life on Mars, because, and the thing about, like, the Frank Morgan, thing about, oh no, you're actually an undercover cop was, it really did all hinge on RoboCop, because him saying that did not make sense, because Sam has made future references every single episode, and he just made one about RoboCop. And I'm like, this can't be real, because how would Sam know about RoboCop? And you could say, well, he just made up a lucky guess or something. Like, no, you don't do that for 16 episodes, and then throw that on me that, no, he's actually not JK, LOL. Like, nah, that doesn't make any sense. So
Unless we are all part of his crazy delusion.
Nah. I don't really like things that go. So like when the it's like when you're watching something. It's like that one Futurama scary door thing when it's
the
scary door monster was man, and you're like, eh.
Turns out it's man.
Oh yeah. I was watching Futurama a couple weeks ago because it's on Hulu, and I was like, oh yes, this clip. Ha 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 ha.
So that is it for Life on Mars, which means that we're gonna have to change. That we're just gonna have to make a little change of note in our opening script. And if
I do the next opening, so we have to make sure we change it, or else I'm gonna forget.
And if I'm feeling like really jazzy, I may tweak our opening theme.
Well, you should you do it because you should.
I will then. We will have a more 80s vibe.
It's funny.
So yeah. Next episode we move on to D.I. Alex Drake.
A2A. Ashes to I don't even know if the fan abbreviation is A2A, but I've already declared it to be so in our conversations.
It is A2A from everything I've seen.
Booyah!
Good job. So yeah, if y'all had fun with this one, woo doggies. So
woo doggies.
Woo and doggies. So that was our violence. Now it's time for our sin.
To our sin.
Our sin. I'm way too happy about that.
I'm in full FULLMETAL ALCHEMIST mode today since I was working on a drawing earlier, so my brain is all over the place with FMA. So our episodes for FMA were episode 31, The 520 Sens Promise, and episode 32, The Führer's Son, which has a weird screen cap on it on the wiki, but okay, wiki, you do that. The summary for episode 31 is, even as his subordinates are scattered, Mustang finds he still has allies. Unfortunately, so do his enemies. The homunculi unleash one of their Ishvalan War's most notorious killers to deal with Scar and Marco. So when we last left off, we were like, oh, Marco's dead, but then, surprise, Marco's not dead. Because that's how this show works. And Envy is the one who finds this. Envy realizes, because there were apparently two, like, alchemy dogs with Marco, and one of them is missing, so basically they figured, they transmuted one to look like a dead body Marco, blah, blah, blah. So Envy, seeing this, goes, oh, now Scar knows that from Marco and Marco's involvement in the Ishval War, and probably he knows all about what happened in the Ishval War. Oops. And then we go to the Elric brothers. Ed and Al are going to go research alchemy because, they were trying to figure out why did their alchemy stop working, but then everybody else's alchemy was still working, everybody else meaning Scar and May. They go over to Dr. Knox's, but she's gone. And now that she's gone, they have to go to the library. We briefly cut over to Brita giving Havoc some dumbbells so that the himbo member of the military squad is not going to be out of the picture yet. And keep a pin in that. Because the story about FULLMETAL ALCHEMIST is that every character somehow comes back around to be an important character.
Oh, yeah, I've noticed.
And at this point in time, though, what's happening is Mustang's whole military squad is splitting up. So, Brita, before he leaves, they'll go to the West, gives Havoc some dumbbells. Fury is feeding Hawkeye's dog, and Fallman comes back and runs into Fury and is like, oh, I'm just returning the chess set that I borrowed from Mustang. So he gives that chess set back. Hawkeye pops in to get some books from Mustang, lets him know Scar's back, because Ed told her about that, so, don't get killed, because that'd be kind of bad to our plans. And as she leaves, Mustang is lamenting with his chess set. He sets up his chess set, and every piece he puts out he coordinates to his crew. So, Fury is a pawn, and which is like one of those weird, funny things to say out loud. But he's saying, like, they've taken my pawn, my rook, my knight, my bishop, and then, he's like, they've taken everybody from me, and he goes, even my queen. Thinking about Hawkeye. But, as he's saying, he looks at the king chess piece and goes, but I'm not in checkmate yet. So, even though they've all split apart, Mustang is still filled with determination. He even unscrews the king chess piece. I can say that phrase, and there's a little note inside, so, Ed and Al are asking around Central. They're trying to find, okay, let's find May then, and because she has a weird cat. It's not a cat. I don't know why everyone calls it a cat, but it's not a cat.
As an aside, I would assume it's because,
they don't know about pandas.
I was going to say, they probably have never seen a panda in Amestria.
This is probably true. They're asking about Xiaomei, because they're like, well, there's a weird cat with her, so we'll go find this. And this isn't working, but as they're, bopping around, a weird guy in a car pulls up and tells them to get in, kids. Spoilers, it's Mustang. Mustang tells them to get in the car. He says, okay, fine, I'll keep an ear to the ground for alchemy, and, I'll let you know if I hear anything. And Ed's like, I don't like being indebted to you. So because of this, I am not going to pay you back the 520 cents I borrowed from you to make that phone call, and I will pay you back when you become Führer of the country. And Mustang goes, why do you know that? So, because we're talking about overthrowing the government in a military state, this basically means they're now mutually indebted to one another, and so, we're not going to pull in those, cash in receipts just yet. But, through this, Ed says, oh, Hawkeye told me all about Ishval, so you know what? I will pay you back later. When the Elric boys get back to the hotel, they find Fu, who is Ling's other bodyguard, hanging out there in the dark waiting for them.
Yep.
And they go over to Dr. Knox's to catch Lan Fan, and Fu is caught up to speed with everything going on. He's mad that Lan Fan lost her arm, and he slaps her, and then he starts crying because Lan Fan's his granddaughter. So these two are, granddaughter and grandfather protecting Ling, and he's at the same point angry and then distressed about, his granddaughter losing her arm.
Yeah.
as I hope we all would be to our loved ones.
Yeah.
Then the whole party disperses from Dr. Knox's house, and Dr. Knox is like, man, it's weird because I normally, was just kind of hanging around corpses and did that kind of thing. But then at the end, his family shows up. His estranged wife and son show up, and his son's going to be a doctor, and he goes to go make coffee, and he starts crying, and he just goes, God, please don't take this nice thing away from me. And it's very sweet. And I was like, Dr. Knox is a great example of a side character that you don't think anything's going to come of him, but he's still a well-rounded, interesting character.
Also, he got out, those coffee cups that, you had seen very briefly.
Mm-hmm.
I saw those little 3 matching coffee cups, and it was a much earlier, not hugely earlier, but kind of earlier episode. And I was like, oh, it's his family's coffee cups.
Oh,
and then you actually...
I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, there were 3 matching coffee cups.
Oh.
They were white with patterns on them, and one was pink, one was green, and one was blue. And he kind of kept them put up and away, and he was looking at them. And then he got them down. I know. I was just like, oh my god.
Oh.
Emotions.
Okay, on that note, we're gonna cut to Kimblee being let out of prison. Kimblee, or as I call him in my mind, Evil Trunks. That's who his voice actor is in the English dub. He's being let out of prison, and everyone's like, don't know why who the hell do you know that you're getting out of prison? Because he probably had 10 life sentences or some shit like that. But he's let out of prison. Envy picks him up, disguised, and Envy gives him a new Philosopher's Stone, because apparently Kimblee can do a thing. He has the Philosopher's Stone that he got in Ishval, because apparently when he went to go check in, and they were like, the people were like, all right, you gotta give us back the stone now, and he's like, lulz, and he kills them. And that's when I'm guessing he was arrested. But he has the power to swallow things and then regurgitate them whenever he wants to.
That's a terrible, weird power. I don't want that power.
It's a good thing it's not like a homunculus power. Can you imagine you become a homunculus, and it's like your special dinosaur power is that you can swallow things and then throw them back up at will?
It's that there's a fantasy series called Xanth, which I have not read, but it's like everyone has a magic power of some sort, and some just suck. Like one is
like quirks in My Hero Academia. Okay.
So yeah, so it's kind of like I can change the color of my pee, you know. So
yeah, your power is regurgitation.
This is dinosaur power.
His dinosaur power. So he's so Kimblee is now working for the homunculus, which is not great. And then we last cut to Marco is now part of Scar's groupies. I want to point out, I believe in the 03 anime, Scar did not have any groupies. In Brotherhood, he has 3. I don't know. And I love that about this series, and I love that Scar also has a gang that he gets to travel around with. So
whether he likes it or not.
It's hilarious because May is like, oh, another person to join our group, and Scar's like, he's not joining our group. And I go, yes, he is. He joins your group. I don't know what you're saying, Scar, but. So one thing that Scar does, though, is he destroys the skin on Marco's face to basically disfigure him, and then tells May to heal him up so that it'll be a little bit easier to travel, because obviously Marco is supposed to be the prisoner of the homunculi, so, might be good to have a disguise. So Scar makes a note that, we're going to go up to the north because that's where my brother's research notes are, and I want to know more about what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
Next episode 32, Fear Sun.
Oh, jeez.
So we have May taking a train. She's eventually gonna be headed north. She's on this train to go there, and she bumps into a strange old lady. Bumps into a strange old lady, knocks down her groceries. The strange old lady helps May pick up her stuff, and then May runs off to see a Dr. Marco on a bench, and they go off, presumably onto a train. In this time, we also learn that Kimblee is on the task of tracking Scar down. Ray is at Hughes' grave, and
Roy.
Roy? Who am I talking about? I'm talking about Roy. I even had the name Roy written down, and yet I still said Ray.
It's okay.
Why is this a thing why does this have to happen? Roy?
Because
Ray
we have
is
another
at
Ray.
Hughes' grave. Remember our FULLMETAL Alchemist Life on Mars crossover?
I sure do. Boy, do I.
Okay, I will continue. Roy is at Hughes' grave, and the mysterious old lady shows up, and it's General Grumman.
Yay!
Who I can't recall if he was necessarily in the show before. In the previous episode, I forgot to mention that Mustang goes to, I don't know what you would call it, a lady bar? A bar?
A lady bar!
A bar that has some ladies in it, and it's
a brothel, Kohai.
I guess a brothel, but they don't really make it explicably clear. You know what I mean?
A nice brothel.
He goes to a classy brothel.
Lady bar.
Maybe it's a host club. You don't know.
Okay.
Mustang goes to a host club, and he tells the owner of the host club, hey, Madam Christmas, I need you to... He passes the paper to her. Hey, I need you to make a phone call. And he calls... The phone call goes to East Headquarters, which is General Grumman. General Grumman is... He's an ally to Roy, basically. They chat a little bit and, talk about... this is part of Mustang's whole thing about accruing allies, and he's like, I know Grumman will help me. If you do recall, before Roy went into that meeting... where he was like, the fear is a homunculus, ho 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 ho. He remembers thinking about Grumman saying, you have to be careful with your allies, but you can count on Raven. Raven's still an ally. And I'm actually going to say something about this that makes me question him saying that, because Grumman laments about losing Raven, because Roy basically tells him, I don't know how much Mustang tells Grumman, but he tells him a lot, apparently, and he laments, we've lost Raven, he was one of the good ones, but apparently before... sometime in the past, Raven asked Grumman, hey, do you want an army of invincible, immortal soldiers? Just asking. And so when Grumman said, not really, but K thanks, he was demoted to Eastern Command. So, Ed and Al are at the library, and they're, because, they have to do some book learning to try and figure out alchemy. Armstrong, the only word I can think to say is appears.
No, that's accurate.
Armstrong appears to Edward. He parts the seas of bookcases.
It's so good.
And he passes on a message from Mustang to May that, we saw May, and she's the May girl you're looking into, and she's headed on a train to the north, probably. And since she's going to the north, Armstrong gives Edward a lecture of introduction for when they go north, and we're about to meet who is going to become Senpai's favorite character in the show.
I'm so excited. I've seen her in the opening, and I'm just like, who is she? And then I heard
reason a lot of people say Brotherhood's the better show.
and then I heard her last name, and I went, oh, that is who she. Okay,
that's she.
You wonder.
So they're going to go head north. Al is on his own reading, and he's approached by Salim Bradley, who we learn is the son of the Fuhrer of King Bradley. Salim loves the alchemy boys. He thinks they're the coolest, hottest shit ever, and he wants to be a state alchemist. And Ed shows up, and of course height jokes are exchanged. And when Ed basically lays a hand on Salim, he gets some guns pointed at him, and they're like, "Don't touch Master Salim." And they're like, "Oh, you're the son of King Bradley. Whoops." And they get invited to Casa de Bradley to have some tea and all this stuff. And so we see Mrs. Bradley, his wife, and Salim. Salim. I think it's Salim. Sorry.
Salim.
And
I think it is Salim.
It's Salim. And the boys are kind of like shocked and surprised and confused that these people are normal because, they know that King Bradley is a homunculus, so they're not expecting him to have a normal family gathering here. And eventually King Bradley shows up, and he behaves like they learn from Mrs. Bradley that, like, my husband isn't very good with women, and I actually slapped him the first time I met him, but then we went on a date, and it was a great date, and, well, now I guess we're married. And remember, I'm curious as to why the show is pretending like this is new information, but do recall that we previously learned that, because Mrs. Bradley says we weren't able to have children, so we adopted Salim. Yeah. And we knew this already. Just reiterating that he's an adopted child, which would get around the fact that, you can't have children because you're a homunculus. Well, problem solved. And that's how they maintained this whole thing going on. Yeah. And, the Elric brothers are kind of surprised that King Bradley behaved like a normal person, like a normal husband, a normal father, and it's very weird to them, and they're not quite sure what's going on. However, King Bradley is, at the same time, charming and threatening with his Werther's original voice, as he's very good at doing. Eventually, though, he does leave, and the boys also leave. And they're like, we're gonna go head north, guys. Cut to this whole time, Scar and Marco have been train hopping. I'm guessing that they're keeping their party kind of separate so as to not. I'm guessing that having a bunch of random hobos of different heights in mysterious trench coats would probably gain some attention. So currently, Scar and Marco are together, and they're basically being boxcar kids and jumping around the trains and avoiding being caught. And so far they are avoiding and eluding Kimblee's tracking of them. Kimblee does determine that at some point on this train heading west, they must have jumped off the train, and so he's like, are they headed north or south? North or south? And the audience is going, they're going north. Everyone's going north. We know they're going north. So far they're ahead of Kimblee. And we end the episode, the boys are on a train, headed north, and they also are talking about how we've never been this far north before. Gosh, golly gosh, there's going to be snow. And as someone who lives in a place where it snowed about 5 weeks ago, I find that a very strange existence. That's where we are for our Full Metal Alchemists.
That is where we are, and gosh, it's very interesting to come back to Bradley's family life. They're playing a game that a lot of stories play badly or choose not to play at all, which is this thing of it is a very human thing. I'm gonna make sure I'm talking into the actual microphone. It is a very human thing that when we see a bad person, when we see, like, and I mean, you know, you can trace some of it back to the homunculus, like, it seems weird that he would have a normal life because homunculus, but let's be real, a lot of it is, it seems weird he'd have a normal life because evil.
Yeah.
Let's just cut to the chase.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a very human mentality. Is that if we know that someone is bad, if we know that someone, or believe whatever, that someone is deep down just truly the absolute worst, hearing that they have a loving spouse and children does not compute.
Yes. Yeah.
Because
it's that whole idea that we would rather pretend people are all fully good or particularly fully evil. And therefore have, you know, no loved ones or no one, they don't go home. And actually King Bradley says that. Yeah. You know, he's like, oh, did you not think that I go home and I have a loving family that I go home to? And it reminds me of when you think about when you're little and you don't understand how teachers work. And you're like, all the teachers, you know, all the teachers live in the school. I remember when I was in 8th grade, my friends and I were out trick-or-treating, and we found out one of our teachers lived in my neighborhood, and I had no idea.
Oh, my God.
We were like, whoa, you live here? And she goes, well, I have to live somewhere. So it's like that, where, you know, it's surprising, and I think it's because so many fictions don't want us to really think too much about characters that way, and they don't want us to think about that. But I think already, though, the show has given us this whole. They've basically explained how almost no characters are irredeemable.
Right.
Like there's always something about them, and even the homunculus, who were like some of the worst people in particular, for the most part, they do have some kind of humanity to them. Even like lust, you know, went on dates with Havoc. Gluttony can be kind of stupid and oafish. I think the only despicable, like the one I hate the most, is Envy. I don't think there are any good qualities about Envy.
He's a rough one to deal with.
But it's a really good point, and I think a lot of shows just don't want to deal with it because it's messy and complicated and not a binary choice.
It's a thing where I think that because we want a concept of fairness in the world, we find it hard to process evil anyway, because we're like, we have to deal with the fact that someone would be that way. And so I think we, at least I noticed this in the Avengers movies, the last ones, with the way Thanos was depicted, is we as humans consider love to be the domain of the righteous. That if you are not a good and righteous person, then you are not deserving of love, therefore you will not give or receive it. And the truth, and the thing is, the problem with that is it really blinds us to seeing the true nature of people, because if someone has a loving family, we go, oh, well, they must be okay. Or... True. Yeah, and so I have written about this before, with regards to the Avengers, funnily enough, before encountering it here. But the fact of the matter is, with Bradley, it's like, he is an absolutely horrendous person, and it runs really, really deep in a lot of ways. But his son absolutely thinks the world of him, and that's, as far as I know, I could be wrong, as far as I know, that ain't like brainwashing or anything. His little boy just absolutely adores him and thinks he's the best. Yeah, and I remember I mentioned this to you in when we were watching the episode. I don't know if it's been mentioned in the show, and I think it has been because of what we've been told so far, but an interesting thing to me is King Bradley, I think when he's talking to Mustang, he must have mentioned this, is he says, I got to choose nothing in my life, but I got to choose one thing. I got to chouse my wife. And, And I think it's because, like, this show in particular has so many interesting, how do I put this? Like, older adult relationships. Like, we see, like older people and parents and people who have been married a long time. And so, to me, it means a bit more than just when you have, like, a bunch of teenagers in an anime and they have love interests, you know? Right. So I think it's fascinating that, you know, he has not been able to have much, but he's been able to choose. Yeah. He was able to be like, yep, this is mine. And you would think that because of that, like, maybe there's something going on there, but I don't think there really is. And she seemed like a normal person too. I really when he says, when I first heard, when you first heard you say the thing about I get to choose my wife, it's like, I think he just legitimately meant that in the most human way possible. That this is a thing. This is an element of my life, and I love. I mean, I've already seen this show tackle some very some stuff that a more cowardly writer would not go towards. But to actually just sit there and go, yeah, no, guess what? And then even to have the character say it.
Yeah.
I think to have the character to have Bradley just straight up say it to the Elrics, like, oh, you thought that because I'm the bad guy, no one loves me? Basically.
Yeah. And I think it's actually perhaps interesting. So we know that Bradley is a human homunculus creation, and the same thing goes for Greed. And the thing about Greed before the Ling Greed is Greed had friends. He had his group. He had his Chimera group. Yep. And it's basically commonly portrayed that, no, he did actually genuinely care about them. Like, it wasn't just, a thing. And we don't know if that Greed was made, was a homunculus that was created, or if he was another human homunculus creation. We don't really know that. But I think it's interesting that these homunculi that they are shown to have sort of more, they're not just, evil, maniac types that are easy to write off.
Yeah. I like that because it's very in line with, I'm trying to think what show, it's really in line with a lot of, sort of 90s giant robot shows, actually. So, I mean, it does come from around the same era, so maybe that's a thing, but like, there are a lot of shows where it's like you see the underlings of, you see the big bad guy, and then you see his little team of freaks, and you're like, ha, look at the team of freaks. And then around episode 30, it's like, oh my goodness, they're all here for very specific reasons.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love when they're not just, here's a weirdo for you to fight. It's like something's going to come back around. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I am constantly impressed at the places that they will go here. Mm-hmm. With regards to our theme of the episode, which is old dudes fibbing graveyards, I gotta say, I have massive respect for any dude who goes, well, the shit's hitting the fan, time to put on a dress. Yeah. Like, he did not have to, and I'm not saying he shouldn't have, I'm just saying there were so many other directions he could have gone.
I think the biggest thing is he shaved his mustache, so he's committed.
I am convinced, like, he was waiting for a chance to do a disguise.
Oh yeah, and also the funnier thing about that, though, is that when, like, Mustang at first didn't know it was him.
I knew it was someone because I'm looking at this, I'm like, that's a dude in a disguise. Okay?
Well, I knew, even though I've seen it before, I think I knew who it was. I remember the character more in my brain. But it was, the funniest thing to me was that when they're in the graveyard and Mustang's like, oh, it's some old lady, is just here to hang out, I guess. And then he realizes who it is. And I thought it was so funny that... Because here's the thing about in a lot of shows when people do disguises and it's kind of a gag, the joke is partly that, oh, characters see right through it, but I think it's hilarious that Mustang did not know who it was.
It's like, it took him a minute, and then it's like, wait, oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I have so much respect. He was like, well, I could see that things were getting crazy, and the disguise would be necessary, so the only option was to shave and put all this on.
Yep.
Like that was literally my only option. Therefore, nope, it's fine. I made that sacrifice for you, Roy. I mean, and I go by the old rule of never underestimate a crazy old man. He got that way for a reason.
Yep, that's true.
I do love when he got the thing where it's like, hey, sir, there's a lady calling for you on Madam Christmas. Mm-hmm. And I love that his cover, his super secret cover for super secret information is like, sir, the brothel called.
And the guy even says to him, like, "Sir, you gotta stop giving out this line to people." So even that one dude is not in on it.
It's a really great idea. It's like, oh my god, my boss is giving out our red bat phone to hookers.
And the thing is, if you think about it, it's actually a lot like Mustang and Hughes when they do the phone thing. Is anybody who overhears Hughes, I believe the whole thing is supposed to be that Hughes is talking in code, and so when anybody overhears Hughes and Mustang talking, they'd be like, "Ugh, why is Hughes using the military phone to talk about his wife and his daughter? And why is he being a jokester like that? He should not be wasting time with the military phone." But then I believe that the hint is that he's kind of giving things in code.
I need to rewatch that scene because I know that Roy was also talking in a way, and it's like, Roy, what are you doing?
Oh, also, yes. This came to light when they had that scene. They had the fight with Gluttony / Barry's human body.
Yes.
Remember when? So, Mustang. You hear him say Elizabeth, and Elizabeth is his codename for Hawkeye, for Riza.
Right.
And I believe though earlier you heard Mustang on the phone saying girls' names, but all those names were codes for like his crew.
Right.
Like I forgot what like Havoc had one, for example. I can think of that off the top of my head. So
of course he did.
Yeah, and I think though that what you're kind of getting from there is that Roy was under Grumman, and so he must have picked up on that from him. And so and then you're like, oh, it's good. It's a good technique.
It really is, because no one's going to listen. They're like, oh my god, my dude, you got to stop this. And you're like, ha ha, lol. Anyway, sweetheart.
I do want to say, I want to give you one piece of information that I don't think they ever explicitly mention in the show.
Go for it.
Grumman is the grandfather of Hawkeye.
Oh! Really?
Yep, he is.
Oh my goodness.
He is her, I think, maternal. He's the maternal grandfather, because we previously met, Master. We met her dad in a previous episode, but they don't have the same last name. So
right.
Yeah, he's the grandfather on her mom's side, and it doesn't like impact the plot. I'm not telling you this as a spoiler, but I remember reading that and I go, oh, he is? And I'm like, where do they mention this? And they might mention it in a sideline somewhere, but so yep.
It makes a lot of sense. I hear that and I'm like, it's one of the things where I'm just like, I hear it and I'm like, yeah.
What I like about it though is that, because one of the things about this show that I really like is that for the most part a lot of major characters that come into play are they're everyone kind of is connected in a web, where and when someone's introduced, maybe they're like blood related, or like, oh, you're in the same unit, or I'm so and so's friend, but very few characters show up from nowhere. Yeah, and I think that's so interesting that it doesn't really like lead any kind of cliches or ruins anything. I just think it's very interesting because what it really shows is that a lot of these characters are kind of in that tangled web of life that a lot of us are into.
It's actually pretty realistic.
Exactly.
Especially when military is concerned, because that is kind of a family thing.
Yes. So I think it's interesting that, because he's kind of a random character, but you're like, oh, he's Hawkeye's grandpa. Then, okay, that kind of makes it more interesting that he's more connected to our group and not just like, oh, he was my mentor figure, totally rando, I don't know. Like, Dr. Knox is kind of a rando character. Oh, but he was a medic that Mustang knew in the Ishval War. Oh, okay, that's how he's related.
It actually does make so much more sense for them to be at least tenuously related because of, the positions they hold. And also it's just more fun.
Yeah.
But, that's really interesting. And I can totally see it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Fun
tip of the day.
I like it. I like it very much. So the only other note I have on FMA is north in all caps. North.
We're going to the north. Ed even has some fleece fringe on the hood of his jacket. So that's how
I noticed
we're going
that.
to cold weather.
He's got a slightly altered character design. Just the fleece. Nothing big.
Nothing big. Yeah. But yeah, that's how we're going to the cold place.
So, actually, both of our shows next episode will be kind of road tripping it because...
Oh, exciting.
Because Full Metal Alchemist is the lads are going north, and Ashes to Ashes takes place in London.
Oh, really? Okay.
So the lads are going south. So maybe they'll pass each other on the way, except not.
Yes, they'll pass each other on the train lines.
They'll wave out the window.
Yep. Oh, I want to take a brief detour into Shipping Corner.
Shipping Corner! I'm going to play our theme that I still haven't picked, but I trust it's good.
It'll happen. So, I have, on the FMA front, Mustang with his queen. Come on, guys. Pretty freaking obvious. Let's not pretend. He
said queen. He just said it.
He didn't even say, he said, my queen.
My queen.
But more importantly, what I really want to talk about was Sam and Annie.
Well, yeah.
Because they're not coming back, is my assumption. So, Sam and Annie, this is the last time we see them, and what I really wanted to mention, because I mentioned a lot already, but how you said, well, John Sim wanted the show to end with a fade to black and no answer. And you know how I've been saying that Sam has had multiple cock blocks in his road to just smooching Annie? And I'm like, John Sim was about to be a cock block to Sam kissing Annie. For the love of God, John Sim, get out of your own way here.
John Sim was about to be the final cock block.
I know! But then he wasn't.
I do like that apparently the writers just went, dude, no. No,
good.
No,
finally.
No.
I liked. So one of the things that I was observing though was in that final bit where they entered the train car. I had this horrified thought, and I think I conveyed it to you, where I said, "Oh my God, don't tell me Annie dies," because we're at that end part and everything's very confusing, and I don't know what the hell is going on. And I was like, I had asked you before. I said, "Is Annie in Ashes to Ashes?" I don't think she is, from what I have observed. And you said, "Do you want to know?" And I said, "No, don't tell me. Don't ruin it." And then when this scene's all playing out, I went, is the reason that she's not in Ashes to Ashes is because she gets shot dead here? Please don't do this to me, show. But she doesn't. It's fine. It's all fine. And they have a cute little kiss. And the thing about it, though, was that you said, oh, Gene, you came in and ruined it. And I was like, no.
No, he didn't ruin it. He rolled up late.
Absolutely perfect. It is so fundamentally the umami of the show that Sam and Annie finally have their kiss, and then as they're doing their cute little smooches, they get like 2 smooches in, and then Gene rocks up in the car.
Tyler! and I like that she is, I like that the whole gang is sort of obviously together. Sam is all in, and it's like, you, get in the car, you, and you, Flash Knickers.
Yeah, exactly. I love that, like, the ending of the show, which I think it's very appropriate, and I think it is the way it should have happened, because it is an ensemble cast show, is that you have all 5 of the squad in the car going off to do their whole squad thing, and I would have been upset had it ended any other way. Like, I'll just say it. I think it was cute that it would have been cute had it been like, oh, Sam and Annie kissing, but I'm like, no. The absolute perfective ending was all of them in the car racing off to do something, and then the questioning still of where is Sam. But we finally got our Sam and Annie kiss, and finally, thank God.
It was there. I felt so bad, just like, because I'm sitting here and I want to be like, it's okay, they're gonna kiss, it's okay, just hang in there, just a little longer.
Right, I know. I'm glad. I'm always glad that we haven't spoiled anything for you. Like, there's a YouTube video that I want to show you. However, because there are characters in it that we haven't gotten to yet, I was like, I can't show you this very funny video because I just don't want to spoil even the slightest thing for you. I have
a pile of memes in a folder.
I have a pile of gift sets accumulating in my Tumblr drafts that I want to reblog, but I'm not posting because I don't want to ruin anything for you.
Yeah, I have this whole pile. We're both in
the spot of, like, saving things to shove at each other later.
When each of our shows, when each of us has finished each of each other's shows, we're just gonna get pummeled with reblogs, and...
Yeah, exactly. But I will say, part of the reason I didn't draw any, like, Sam and Annie fan art was I was like, oh, what if Annie dies and I'm that idiot that draws them, and I'm like... I'm gonna wait. I'm just gonna hold off until I get, because I'm like, we're almost at the end of Life on Mars. I can wait a little bit longer. And
you're free.
I'm free. So I'm glad I did. But I'm very happy that they had a cute little ending, and it's very cute and so
It
sweet.
is so good, and Sam just finally, I mean, John Sim does a very good job at looking very sad and very distressed and very lost. He
does.
I mean, once you've seen the Camberwick Green bit, it's like Sam just looks like his Camberwick Green doll.
Yeah.
It's not even that the doll looks like him, it's that he looks like the doll. he just has that sort of the whole time. But then in the last episode, when he goes back, it's like, oh my god, you dropped your shoulders, you took the deep breath, you know. Yeah.
I know, it's just, but I'm just so happy. I'm just so relieved.
Yeah.
I just want good things for my people, okay?
I just want my garbage ass cops to be happy. That's all. I just want these fools to have a nice day.
Yeah, exactly.
My fictional babies, I want them to be happy. So, we should go on to the sin and violence of the episode.
Okay. Favorite violence.
The violence exacted upon Sam's psyche by Frank Morgan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Son of a bitch.
I'm not sure if it's my favorite, but it's the one that I have the most emotions about because I'm angry at Frank, whoever the hell Frank is.
I will say my favorite violence was Gene going undercover as a train robber and just having such a good day.
He's having a really good time.
He had the balaclava on, he had the big gun, and for like 5 seconds he got to play act, and he was like, woo! So that's
that was
so
solid.
That's the violence. The sin.
It's hard for there to be sin things when like not a lot of alchemy is going on.
I feel like it's something to do with shaving the mustache. No. I know what it is.
Yeah.
Favorite sin is that cat.
Oh,
that
cat. That we're told was Xiaomei, but isn't.
The existence of that bizarre cat. Okay, now I don't hate it. I actually love it. So for those who have forgotten or who are just listening without watching the show because they're just feeling it. So Ed and Al both have different pictures of Xiaomei. Al has drawn a tiny cute panda. Ed has drawn a cryptid, an angry cryptid. So they actually do find a cat that looks like Xiaomei that belongs to this little old lady, and the animation on this thing is the funniest shit I've ever seen. because this old lady's down to the cat, and the cat's like, wah, and it's like, it's just this I have to go back and just see that and make a gif of it because you don't understand. You don't understand. It's the tiniest little background pointless animation, but whichever animator took the 2 seconds to do that, it's so good. I know it's so tiny, but I can't get it out of my head. Anyway, that's my sin of the episode because everyone else was actually fairly chill.
Yeah, it's pretty chill episode for the most part.
Secondary sin would be the sin that didn't happen. New guy, Stone Swallower.
Oh, Kimblee.
Thank you.
Oh, yes.
The sin that did not happen. This would have been sin of the episode if it had happened.
Sure.
When Kimblee used alchemy on the warden just as he was leaving and strapped a bomb to his wrist. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh my god, I can't get it off. And it goes off and this little P.O.P.O. chick comes out of it. And he's like, I wouldn't have done that to you, my dude. What I was expecting was for the gate to the jail to close behind Kimblee and then for an explosion to happen.
Yes. Because the thing about that is just that the way the frame is set up, it's almost designed that way.
So the sin that didn't happen, I was like waiting for it to be, I didn't actually kill you, close the gates, boom!
Right.
So that's the sin that didn't happen that would have been, but since it didn't happen, it's the cat.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me, Sounds good to me too. So, with that, all that being said, that was the Sin and Violence Podcast. I'm Kara.
And I'm Ginger.
And that was Sin and Violence,
a podcast of equivalent exchange.